It's 4 o'clock on a Monday, and you know what that means. It's time for yet another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. Yeah, baby. Special Monday, you know why? Tonight is the return of the TV show 24, starring Kiefer Sutherland as Jack Bauer. And if you were a fan of 24 when it existed in its last incarnation, you know exactly what I mean. If you've never watched 24, tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, good time to start watching the show. They brought it back because viewers demanded it, and it is a rockin' show. Let me get the chat room open here and say hello. Hello, guys. Usual cast of characters in there. How are you? So as I said in my email that went out today, well, first of all, there's a gentleman in Nashville. I met him probably 15 years ago or more when he was at Hamstein Music, and a mutual friend introduced us, and I thought he was an incredibly nice guy, and his name is Chip Hardy. And every time I ever asked for a meeting with Chip, he was more than gracious and met with me, and he was just always an awesome guy and a true gentleman, and really, really, really wise, salt of the earth, honest, honorable guy. Hard to find in our industry. So over the years, we've become even better friends, and it was last year at the Road Rally in November, Chip Hardy gave me a copy of his book, Chip's Tips. And I went, awesome, can't wait to read it. And as I was packing up my hotel room Sunday night, getting ready to leave the Road Rally, I took it off the nightstand and put it in the outside pocket of my suitcase. Well, about, more than a week or so ago, Deb and I and one of our daughters were on our way to San Francisco for a cousin's wedding. And Deb pulled out the suitcases, and I noticed that one of the suitcases, the one that I was packing in, had a little bump on the outside, so I unzipped that pocket and opened it up, reached in, and guess what I found? Chip's Tips. Well, I was more than a little embarrassed because I've had the book now for, 6 months and hadn't read it yet. So, as you can see by the dog-eared pages, I started reading it. And just like Chip, it's in plain English and really easy to understand. And as I was reading it, I thought, I should really do a show about this book because it's just, so much of it is common sense, but it's common sense that not enough people have. So, or use. Maybe they have it, but they don't use it. So I want to give you a little bio on Chip. He's worked as a songwriter, a producer. He's done A&R at a major label and was a publisher for a really long time. As a songwriter, his songs have been recorded by Dionne Warwick, Dean Martin, Conway Twitty, and Loretta Lynn, Charlie Pride, and the Whites. His production credits include Loretta Lynn, Dan Rogers, the Vega Brothers, Rick and Janice Carnes, Joe Barnhill, while working alongside legendary producers on projects by George Strait, Reba McEntire, Waylon Jennings, the Oak Ridge Boys, Mac Davis, Roger Miller, Glenn Campbell, Barbara Mandrell, and numerous others. He was also in charge of artist development for MCA Records. He recorded over 1,200 song demos for Hamstein Music, which was, I believe, the largest independent publisher, certainly in Nashville, if not maybe the industry at the time, including the demos for Just to See You Smile by Tim McGraw, and I'll Think of a Reason Later, the first hit by Leanne Womack. He also helped develop Jared Neiman while running Marathon Key Music Publishing Company, which was a joint venture between Billy Joe Walker and Warner Chappell. And he's currently the producer at the 515 studio in Berry Hill. There used to be a company called Nashville Demo Studio, and Chip was the head producer for that company, and then it dissolved, but the studio remained, and Chip remained, and the players who play on these amazing demos remained. So it is called the 515 Studio, and I can tell you without a doubt that they're honest, hardworking, the quality of what they do is impeccable, And you can even watch, if you don't live in Nashville, but you want to get your demos recorded by Nashville players, you can watch your session happening live via the internet while it's going on. And I have never met anybody who is so universally well liked and respected, and whose work is just awesome as Chip Hardy. So there you go. So started reading the book, and so what I do is I just tabbed pages and highlighted things. So a lot of this stuff, I'm just going to read you sections of it, but really, really, really good stuff. And in this section, it's called, this section number 1, it's called, Are You Listening? In conversations with non-professional songwriters, I always ask them if they listen to the radio. It would surprise you the number of times they tell me no. Sure as hell wouldn't surprise me. They say things like, what's on the radio is a bunch of crap, or I don't like the songs I hear on the radio. Duh. That's their competition if they're aspiring songwriters and want to be commercially competitive. How can a songwriter expect to ever be competitive if he or she doesn't listen to the competition? How can a company that makes shoes be competitive if they're not familiar with other companies' brands and styles? Yes, I agree. Could not agree more. We hear that all the time from people. I hate the crap that's on the radio. Well, you're not totally locked into just writing songs for radio. Could be film and TV. But, whatever venue you're going to pitch your stuff to, you have to know what the competition is doing. So Chip's point is very well taken. So here are a few suggestions I would ask you to at least think about following if you're serious about songwriting. Number 1, have your radio in your car programmed to several different radio stations. I'd suggest several different genres of music, even if you feel like they're totally locked in, even if you feel, I can't talk today, even if you feel like you're totally locked into just one genre of songwriting. If you're listening, you'll hear, for example, that country radio borrows ideas from pop, R&B, Americana, etc. To be on the cutting edge of country songwriting, you need to be familiar with what's current in other genres. Same thing goes if you consider yourself a pop songwriter. Pop songwriters and production styles borrow from other genres of music as well. The chances are very good if something is working in one genre that it's going to appear in another genre soon. I could not agree more, Chip. So he goes on to say in section 2, find several songs on the radio or in your music collection that you really like. I'd focus on songs that are or were hits and are being played on the radio more than just songs you like. Again, those songs are your competition. As you're listening, ask yourself, why do I like this song? Is it the message or storyline of the lyric? Is it the melody that you have to hum along with? Is it the perfect blend of melody, lyric, and ear candy in the production of the song? Then number 3, sit down at home and print out the lyric and listen to the song again with the lyric sitting on your lap. This time focus on every word and using a pencil or pen to mark the lines that are your favorites. Again, ask yourself, why do I like this line or this phrase? Chances are that at that point in the song, the songwriter is paying off a verse or a chorus, meaning this is one of the points where the song connects with listeners on an emotional level. Hello, how often do we talk about emotion? Number 4, listen to the song again, focusing on the melody. Make a note of how the melody in the verse either builds in intensity or comes back down in intensity to prepare you for the chorus. Also make a note of the chordal structure. If the lyric is saying something happy or sad, if the lyric is happy, the chances are you'll be hearing a major chord. Pretty obvious, but you know what? People don't always think about that. Where was I? If the lyric is sad or haunting, the songwriter probably used a minor chord to convey that emotional feeling there. Number 5, listen to the song again. Yes, again. This time looking at your notes for both lyric and melody and make sure that you didn't miss anything. We've all heard this stuff. I've repeated it endlessly on the show. Robin Frederick talks about it endlessly in both of her books. All songwriting teachers, seminars, everybody in the industry, people at the Road Rally, panelists, mentors, teachers, they all talk about it. But you know what? You can't be a great golfer if you don't get out and hit balls. And you got to look at what other people are doing. Not to copy them or steal from them, but you need to know where the bar is set, and it keeps you current. And being current is really important. Then he says, number 7, do this whole procedure. He says it in all caps. Do this whole procedure again with another song, then several more songs. Pretty obvious, right? But not enough people do that. They sit down and they just write from the heart. This is what I'm feeling today. This is what the muse brought me. This is what I have to get out of my system. But you got to kind of make the decision. I mean, there's nothing wrong with writing music for a hobby or doing it for an emotional expression or because you have to. That's okay. I'm not putting that down and saying you shouldn't do that, but I'm talking about people who want to be successful in the music industry. Chip's tips is all about what you can do for the most part. He's got some stuff for people who want to do it as hobbyists. But if you want to be a professional, if you want to earn some income with your music, the stuff in this book is pure gold. By the way, a lot of these are articles or blogs, I think, that Chip has written, and he kind of organized them into a book. And so this one is number 2, called Hook Title. All the same, right? Can't tell you how many times I've asked a songwriter what the hook for their song is, and they've replied with something like, "On my knees." Oh gosh, there's a great one-liner in there, but it's a family show, so I'm not going to say it. Hook? No. Phrase, idea, possible song title? Maybe. So what is a hook? The word hook in songwriting comes from the fishing term setting the hook. Now he's talking because I love fishing. Meaning that when the fisherman feels something nibbling on the hook, he or she yanks the line in hopes of planting the barb of the fish hook in the fish's mouth. It means hooking the listener to reel him or her in with your song. Most of the time, the hook is not the same as the title of the song. For example, using the title above, On My Knees, a possible hook for that line or title might be Crawling Back to You. So really, the whole phrase with the title and the hook would be On My Knees and Crawling Back to You. Hooks either set up or complete a title or an idea. Let me repeat that one more time. Hooks either set up or complete a title or an idea. A good example of a title/hook song from years past would be If Lovin' You Is Wrong, the title, I Don't Want to Be Right, the hook. Got it? Title, hook. The play on words, wrong and right, is key here. It's just another example, just as in the other example, the word knees and crawling work together. Sometimes the title of a song may have several hooks that are not the previous or following lines. In the song Just to See You Smile, for example, one of the hooks comes at the end of the first verse. I can't believe the way you looked at me. The way you looked at me and the word smile go together and work to set the hook on the listener. So the next time somebody asks you what the hook is to your song, remember it's not necessarily the title. It's the title and the phrase or phrases that make the title work and keep the listener engaged. Keeping the listener engaged. You see that in taxi listings all the time. Keeping the listener engaged from top to bottom. It's not enough just to have a great title. It's not enough just to have a great hook. And nowadays, songs, especially pop songs and country songs, are moving into this as well, where there are multiple hooks. I've heard intros, short as they have become these days, where the intro itself is a hook. Just a little lick that happens in the intro makes the song instantly recognizable and sets you up with a level of engagement to make you want to hear the rest of the song. The first line of the first verse can be a hook to set the hook to get you to listen to the rest of that verse, which is obviously there to get you interested enough in the song that you get to the chorus. And then, of course, the chorus has a payoff, which is another form of a hook. But in pop songwriting today, I can't tell you how many times I'll be in the car listening to music and I just hear hook after hook after hook after hook and think to myself, any one of those things would be enough back in the 70s, maybe even in the 80s or 90s, that back then it may have stood on its own as the hook for the whole song. But nowadays, the craft of songwriting and the level that writers are at, and I think to some degree the fact that people are collaborating with many more people on songs, that they come up with a bunch of hooks. And it's just boom, hook after hook after hook, and keeps you engaged throughout the whole song. And you know what? The competition is stronger than ever, so you've got to do what they do and beat them at their own game. Some common songwriting mistakes. I'm just scanning the chat room right now. And the Rickman1234 says, I've always felt that the best way to describe a hook is to say that it's the part of the song that the listener sings to him or herself after the song is over. Made You Look says, by hook or by crook, you need a hook. That's true. So Chip goes on in section number 3, and I'm not going to read you the entire book, but I do have, I don't know, probably 20 pages that are dog-eared here. And then I'm going to open it up to some Q&A, not that I can answer your questions as well as Chip could. Titles. Song titles should be interesting enough to grab a potential listener's attention. Of course they should be. It's like a headline in a newspaper, particularly if you're pitching your song for a recording artist. A title like I Love You, Yes I Do probably isn't going to excite the listener enough to actually put the CD in and play it. Try to come up with something intriguing, something that catches the eye and makes someone want to hear it with their ears. 2 senses, eyes and ears. As I've quoted before, there's nothing new under the sun, but please try to find a title that piques the interest of the potential listener. If your title doesn't look like something worth listening to, then the listener's ears will probably never hear it. We also know that to be true with especially stuff for instrumental cues in production music libraries. I think I covered this in a recent episode, maybe last week in the members-only version of Taxi TV. Can't remember when I did, but I know that I've covered it at least once, which is, if you're writing a cue, an instrumental cue that would be good for a sad breakup, don't give it a title like Oh Happy Day. That would be completely inappropriate and point the person who's scanning a list of 50 potential instrumental cues the wrong way. No, you give it something like, Blue Breakup or End of the Road, something that tells them, it gives them some sort, it telegraphs what they're probably going to hear in that instrumental. Storyline development. This is a big one, and I don't think enough people really think about storyline development. In addition to having a beginning and a middle and an end, songs should have a definite progression from point A to point B. Songs need to take listeners somewhere, on an auditory journey, so to speak. I can't tell you how many songs I've heard that start nowhere and go nowhere. Couldn't agree more, Chip. Just a lot of rhymes in between the beginning and the end. Yes, that's not a song. That's a bunch of rhymes with musical notes under them. If someone starts out driving down the road toward home, then at some point he or she should arrive there. If a character in a song gets up in the morning and goes to work, then he or she should start in the bedroom, be in the car, and wind up at work. Oh man, I so badly... I was just thinking I should play this. You guys, I've played this so many times, I'm not going to play it, but this is a great song that was written by Curtis Sly and Clint Lagerberg called... Where is it? Oh, Here Comes Goodbye. It's a great example of that, but I've played it so many times I don't want to wear out my welcome on that. Somebody starts out driving down the road towards home, then at some point he or she should arrive there. If the character song... Oh, I did that already. Okay, then he goes on to storyline questions. Be careful not to use phrases or sentences that need to be explained but aren't. Oh my God. We get, our screeners will point this out in feedback to the members all the time. I'd say probably 50% or more of the critiques that go out of here will have something, I mean, obviously not for instrumental stuff, but for songs. And maybe not so much for film and TV songs, but for songs that are radio and artist oriented. That if it leaves you with a question, like if you talk about, halfway through the first verse, if you talk about he left me, who's he? Where did the he come from? Who is the he in your life? We need to know who he is. So be careful to not use phrases or sentences that need to be explained but aren't. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard lines in songs that caused me to ask more questions than the writer answered. Phrases thrown in like "she caused me pain" cause a listener to ask, "What did she do?" The listener wants to know how and why. Did she pack her suitcase and leave? Did she sleep with his best friend? Those questions may not crop up to the writer as the song's being written, but I guarantee you they'll be important questions to answer for the listeners. So do that as an exercise. Even though you've written a song and it may be about a very personal experience for you, the people on the receiving end of that, the artist you're pitching it to, the A&R people, the producer, the listeners who are going to hear it on radio, fans, they don't know the inside story and all the details that you know. So the trick is give them the detail, fill in the blanks, but be compact in the way you're doing it. Don't give them run-on sentences. I'm not a songwriter, so I'm trying to think of a good example. But don't. Even though, especially for country, lyrics should be conversational, don't make it so conversational that you've got ifs, ands, or buts, or thes, or that's that are in there that don't need to be in there. Give them poignant detail that paint a picture with words, that put them in a place, in a scene, in a room, in a situation, in the middle of an emotion that they, the listener, can relate to. But do it in such a way that you're using well-chosen words, as few words as possible, and don't leave them with more questions than answers. I'm scanning here so I can read you the most appropriate stuff. Throwing in something like "my dog ran away," then going on to something else will only cause listeners to want to know why the dog ran away. Was the owner cruel to the dog? What was that guy's name? Michael, who was a football player that got busted for dog fighting? I know. I'll see it, come up here in a second. Michael Vick, right? So there you go. If you have a line in there about his dog ran away, it'd be really good to let him know Michael Vick was the dog's owner. Or was the dog on a leash, took off chasing a rabbit. It's important to know after you finish the song to go back and make sure you haven't left areas of the song where listeners have more questions than you answered. So that's the takeaway from this, is take your lyric and try to read it with such objectivity that it's like you're reading the lyric for the first time. I've got to tell you, when you go to Nashville and sit down with an A&R person or a publisher or a producer and you're in a pitch meeting, they all want to see the lyric. And when they see the lyric, I've literally had friends of mine, people I know well, take a look at a lyric and not even hit the play button to hear the song because they can scan the lyric and immediately know that it doesn't live up to the Nashville standard of lyric craft because they see stuff like that on the page. They will see that the song has left you with more questions than answers. Continuing on with some common songwriting mistakes. Chip talks about descriptive words. Songwriters have to think mini-movie the whole time they're writing. It's okay to tell how a character feels, but the more concrete the words that are used, the better. For example, to use an old Chris Christopherson song opening line, I woke up Sunday morning, with no way to hold my head. I woke up Sunday morning with no way to hold my head. It didn't hurt. The phrases Sunday morning, hold my head, it didn't hurt are very picturesque ways of telling you that telling the listener that the character had a hangover from Saturday night. There you go. That's the compactness of words I'm talking about. That he didn't go on to say, I went out drinking with the boys Saturday night. We went to this bar first, and a second bar, I was doing shots of shots of tequila with beer backs. Did too many, ended up in the parking lot puking my brains out in the back of my pickup truck, and then woke up with a hellacious hangover on Sunday morning. Instead, he woke up Sunday morning with no way to hold my head. It didn't hurt. There you go. Tells you everything you need to know in a very compact way. Okay. If someone is driving down the highway, a great way to paint the picture would be something like, I just passed mile marker 303. Or when I pass the rest stop, I'll see the town start to fade in my rear view mirror. So both of those phrases tell you that somebody is driving down the road, and they add more detail and create a more picturesque vision in the mind of the listener. Descriptive words are extremely important so listeners can see what's going on in the song as they're hearing it. Not poetic, but descriptive. Okay. Again, don't write poems and put melodies under the poetic words. That's not your job. Your job is to tell a story. Chip goes on to talk about character development, and I didn't highlight anything other than character development, so give me a second here to scan. Characters in songs must be real to be believable. How many times have you seen the word believable show up in taxi listings? You know, we don't put this stuff in the listings just for our own edification or to make it harder for you guys to get over the hurdles. These are aspects of songcraft that people on the industry side are looking for. So characters in songs must be real to be believable. To capture and keep a listener's attention, the songwriter has to allow the listener to get to know the character or characters in the song. So use some detail to help them get to know the character. Simply saying Johnny was a bad kid doesn't really tell a listener anything about Johnny. Maybe the gist of the song is that Johnny turns his life around and becomes a preacher. Listeners need to know how bad Johnny was to appreciate his transformation. Speaking of bad people, I'm going to go off the reservation here for a second. I stopped in a Wendy's restaurant yesterday to grab a quick burger. A mom walks in, I'd say probably in her mid-30s, and she's got 3 little boys ranging in age from like 2 to maybe 5 years old in tow. And sweet little girl, looked like she was probably 6 years old. The little girl was so well behaved. And these 3 boys, one in particular, this kid was hell on wheels, screaming at the top of his lungs. And the mom was there to buy them all a Frosty. I only know that because she kept screaming, "Shut up or you're not getting your Frosty." And this kid kept screaming, "But she won't talk to me," meaning his sister. Well, his sister was obviously just over it. She was done with this little boy. He had driven her to the point of insanity. She had just shut down. She was not going to talk to this kid. And I got to tell you, the whole time I was eating, this mom and this little boy were just screaming at each other. One of the other diners in the restaurant was a guy probably about my age. He and I just kept looking at each other, shaking our heads. The whole thing was so embarrassing. And then finally, the mom just grabbed the kid by his arm and yanked him so hard. The kid's definitely going to need rotator cuff surgery at some point in his life. She was about 1 step away from abusing that kid. But oh my God, that kid was like the most out of control, rambunctious little kid that I've seen in years. And so there you go, talking about character development. The guy eating near me said that kid's either going to grow up to be a captain of industry or end up in prison before he turns 18. I hope the mom is watching this episode of Taxi TV. I don't even know, what do you say to a parent like that? I mean, this poor woman, if this kid is like this all the time, she probably wants to kill herself. Or the kid, I'm not sure. But, man, no, I don't want to even go there. Got to tell you, it was something. Okay. Again, scanning. If you go back after writing a song and don't feel like a character has been developed enough that you know the person, that means rewriting. Rewriting. I'll bet you if you searched, the text of this book for the word rewriting, it'd be in here like 1,000 times. And well placed, I might add. Okay, I found this section to be really interesting. Why do I want to be in the music business? Scanning. Money, 3 exclamation points. Writing a hit song can make me some fast money. Chip goes on to say, when I signed with my performing rights organization in 1976, my ASCAP representative took me to lunch. Charlie Monk, a longtime music business veteran, told me, I know Charlie. I've met Charlie on 2 occasions anyway. If you're getting in the music business because of money, it's for the wrong reasons. Since I moved to Nashville several years before and had some songs recorded already, I'd made the commitment. Of course, making money is the one thing I wanted to do because every job needs to have its compensations. However, I was a songwriter and that's what I would do, money or no money. And I found in my experience that people who want to be in the music business are songwriters, music publishers, producers, etc., that have making money as their first priority have not done well. Most never even had a song recorded before they packed up their vehicles and went back to where they came from. Just as an aside, the money isn't fast. From the time a song is recorded, it might be 6 months before the project is released. I'd say it's probably even longer than that now. And the song may not make the project. After the project's released, even if your song is selected as a single, it might be the second single, so that'd be another 6 months. And even if you do score a single and have a top 20 record, you can still plan on another 9 to 12 months before you start receiving royalty checks from your performing rights organization. If your song isn't a single, it could be another year to 18 months from the project's release date before you receive a check for the mechanical royalties. It's all true. Another reason is people get in the music industry. I'll get to hang out with the stars. He says, another invalid assumption. Chances are good that you'll not even meet the artist who records your songs. If you happen to get a #1 single, then you might get to take the artist handed a PRO #1 party, and you get to see him or her again if you receive an award from your PRO during the ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC awards dinners. But you will not automatically be given a pass to hang out with the recording artist by having a song recorded. Here's another commonly heard phrase that Chip refers to that I think is great. I know the odds are against me, but it will be different for me. I go back to my golf analogies I frequently make. I think that golfers understand that if you're a weekend golfer, even if you're somebody that plays like 2 or 3 days a week, the chances of making the tour, the chances of becoming Tiger Woods, not that big, okay? Not that great. Yet, for some reason, songwriters and artists think that you're born blessed, you're born with a gift, that you pop out of your mommy's belly with this God-given gift, and to some degree, some people are born more talented than others, but it's craft in the end that wins the day. And I know that there are lots of people out there that think, I know the odds are against me, but it's going to be different for me. Guess the odds are against you whether you're a songwriter or want to get into the music publishing or production side of the business. There's no question about it. It's a long, hard road with no guarantees. I can't tell you the number of songwriters or people who wanted to be in the music business who had this kind of mindset that they were going to beat the odds because of their overwhelming talent. They may not have actually said that, but it was clear to me from their behavior that that's what they were thinking. So there you go. And believe me, if there's a guy who's been there, done it, seen it all, and just met thousands upon thousands of people that have moved to Nashville, trying to make it in the country music business, Chip Hardy is that guy. And he's been around the block, and he's a very, very intuitive person. So if he's not easily fooled, let's just leave it at that. Um, I love this one. I actually put stars on this one. See that? Pink stars. Um, I'll give it 6 months. That's plenty of time to judge if I can make it. Oh my gosh. If I had $1 for every person that said, I'm going to join Taxi. Now, these are people that generally wait for years. I've been watching you guys for years. And now I finally joined. I'm going to give it a year to see if it pays off. If I make my membership fee back, or if I make, several times my membership fee back. I'll give it 6 months. That's plenty of time to judge if I can make it. Okay, I actually had to tell a songwriter. Nope, sorry, I'm reading that too fast. I actually had a songwriter tell me in a meeting one time that he had temporarily moved to Nashville and he would give himself 6 months to a year to be successful. For me, that effectively ended our meeting. Professionals in music business may not take anyone seriously until they've met with them several times over the course of maybe even several years. They want to know a songwriter or would-be publisher or producer is in it for the long haul. There are successful songwriters here in Nashville that didn't get their first song recorded until they'd been here for 5 years. If they'd given themselves only 6 months, they would have been back where they came from without ever having a clue that they could have been successful. Chip, if you're watching the show today, I couldn't agree more. It breaks my heart when I see Taxi members that have progressed, that have gotten better over a year, that are getting close, and then they give up after a year because they set a goal. I'm going to do this for a year. And it is such an unrealistic expectation. I'm looking over at the write, submit, forget, repeat bumper stickers that Stephen Giles had made up, because those reminded me of the Taxi members that talk about the 5-year plan. Those are the realistic members that more often than not end up being the successful members. And I know 5 years seems like an awful lot of time to invest in something, but come on. You want to be a PGA Tour golfer, you're not going to do it in less than 5 years. Probably going to take you more than that. Scanning. Okay. This one I included in my email that I sent out to you guys about today's show. What is fresh and new? You see the word fresh used in our listings pretty frequently. I got to admit that when I first started Taxi, and our dearly beloved and departed friend John Brahaney was coaching me a lot and acting as an advisor to me, he would often talk about lyrics being fresh. And I knew what fresh meant, and I took him seriously, but I didn't really understand the depth of the meaning of the word fresh in the context of lyrics, and now melody as well. Not that it didn't apply to melody before, but I think people usually thought of fresh being about lyrics. Like, come on, let's be honest here. Most songs, not most, many songs, a high percentage of songs are written about relationships, falling in love, falling out of love, beginning of relationships, ending of relationships. How many ways can you say I love you? Big challenge to come up with a new, fresh way to say it. But it's imperative on you as a songwriter to do that. It's funny, I was on the phone today with Barry Dvorzan, who is the owner of and creator of Master Writer. Barry is also a very dear friend of mine. I have tremendous respect for him. He's had an amazing career as a songwriter, as a publisher. He's just been so incredibly successful, and he designed and had Master Writer built to his specifications to give you an unbelievable arsenal of tools to come up with fresh new ways to say things. We only have so much stuff in our brains. One of the ways that you can increase the amount of resources in the wrinkles and folds of your brain. Excuse me, there's my weekly Rockstar burp. Um, is to read a lot of literature, read a lot of books. Many of the greatest songwriters I've met in my career are voracious readers. Um, and it's not like they read books and necessarily underline phrases or steal stuff, but the more you read, the more you know. I think I stole that from a TV commercial. And it's sitting there in the recesses of your mind so that in the future it may come up and regurgitate itself in some fruitful way for you. But Master Writer is a great tool. I know that if you're looking, one of the examples that Barry Dvorak always uses in his presentation is that if you're looking for a way to describe the sun, you could say a bright sun, a hot sun. Somebody who's using a thesaurus may come up with a blazing hot sun. But what about somebody who's using Master Writer? They may come up with the sun was the color of a blood orange. Ever cut into a blood orange, and they're this amazingly rich, kind of reddish orange color. It's the same color that the sun is just before it hits the horizon and sets. Well, that makes a song more interesting. So if you use a tool like Master Writer, you're going to have a deeper well of stuff to pull from. But somebody had called Barry and said that maybe they emailed him, called him, whatever the context was. They said that using Master Writer was cheating. It's like, oh, really? You're going to limit yourself to what's just up there in the recesses of your own mind? Why wouldn't you use a tool that can do it faster, better, more effectively than what you're capable of? Is buying a new golf club cheating? Is buying a golf club that utilizes some new technology to hit the ball farther, is that cheating? No, of course not. It's a tool. Using a great tool is not cheating. Anyway, getting back to Fresh. When I was a publisher / song plugger for a new music publishing company called Stradivarius Music, James Stroud's company, I'm thinking that was his music, pretty sure, or that was his company, pretty sure it was. There were probably only 45 to 50 songs in the catalog, and Chip's job was to listen to them and know them all well enough to market them to recording artists, either via A&R record label staff members, producers, managers, or the artists themselves. We had a song in that catalog written by Tony Martin and Reese Wilson called Let the Good Times Roll. When I saw the title, I passed it off as just another version of the probably 1,000 other songs with the same title. I listened to all the other songs in the catalog, maybe even twice, before I forced myself to listen to that one. Jeff Carlton, who'd been with the company since its inception, kept asking me, have you listened to Let the Good Times Roll yet? So finally, one morning, when I was there all by myself, I put the cassette in the player and turned it on. I didn't even bother pulling a lyric sheet out because I knew it was what I was going to hear. 3 lines into the song, I was hooked and shocked at what Tony and Reese had done with the old shop-worn idea of Let the Good Times Roll. So Chip says if you can find a copy of it on the internet, I'd highly recommend listening to it. So there you go. Go find yourself the Tony Martin, Reese Wilson version of the song, Let the Good Times Roll, and you will see what Chip is referring to as far as doing something new under the sun, something fresh. Man, I can't tell you how important fresh is. It's not good enough to be as good as what's on the charts. You've got to be better. And there are only a few ways you can really do that as far as writing a song. Your song could be better by having better lyrics. How do you have better lyrics? By having a fresh take that takes a time-worn sentiment or phrase or idea or topic and turns the phrase in such a way that people go, huh, wow, never heard it said like that before. Another way is to come up with a fresh melody. That's hard to do. limited number of notes. I don't know what the mathematical combination or permutation would be for the number of ways to organize notes, but of course you've got the prosody, combining the music and the lyric and how they go together to come up with effective new ways to be fresh. Okay, so it's not just coming up with a fresh lyric or a new way to say something that's been said 1,000 other times or 10,000 other times before. It can often be the combination of that fresh lyric combined with a fresh take on the melody, and then combining those two things with a fresh take on the rhythmic aspect of the song. And you put those together, and it may be something really stupidly simple, but when you put them together, it is so incredibly effective. Maybe it happens by accident for some songwriters. Maybe they have that lightning bolt moment where the muse hits them and something just falls into their lap. But I would be willing to bet, after spending about 40 years in the music industry, that the people who write those incredibly hooky, fresh melody, lyrics, and rhythms that go together and come out the other end looking like it was a stupidly simple idea, but they're tremendously infectious and you can't get them out of your heads, that those people relied on craft to get there. So there you go. Actually, I'm going to take another swig because my throat's getting dry, and I'm going to scan the chat room for a moment. Let's see if you guys are asking any questions. Jim Carvalho says, I wonder if Ralph ever uses Master Writer. I don't know that I've ever asked him that, but I will. I mean, when you look at the list of people who use Master Writer, it's insane. Absolutely insane. I mean, big time, big, huge hit songwriters. Let's face it, any resource you can use. Getting feedback from Taxi, reading Robin's books, reading this book, reading Jason Bloom's books. Anything you can do to expand your possibilities of writing a hit. Those are all investments in your career. Those are investing in tools to make you better. Why would you limit yourself to just one thing? Why not use everything at your disposal that you can possibly afford? Phrasing, Michael, Bob Lagrasso says, phrasing, Michael, can you touch on that? I'm going to have to see. Honestly, I don't know if I circled anything. I mean, this is really about what Chip is saying, not so much what I'm saying. But I will tell you that I've learned a tremendous amount about phrasing from just hanging out with Robin Frederick, from reading her book, from watching her stuff at the Road Rally, from having her on the show. And I can absolutely tell you that phrasing, both melodic phrasing and lyric phrasing, have changed. Not changed dramatically, not like, totally upending the way stuff is phrased, but pushing the envelope in phrasing by 10, 15, 20%. One of the things that I most commonly see is phrases that start on the ands, where everything doesn't fall right on the downbeat on the one. You'd be really, really smart to do exactly what Chip talks about in the book, which is sit down with the lyric sheet of a song that's current, that you listen to on the radio, and not only study the lyrics, but make little marks, underline, where the rhythmic phrasing lines up with the lyric and the melodic phrasing, and make those notations and look for patterns. Hey, Amber. Amber says, and tax deductible when your music starts making money. Absolutely. Why not offer a discount for Master Writer to taxi members? You know what? Barry and I talked about that today, and that is likely going to happen. And I think he's going to do the reverse, where he's going to offer a discount on taxi to Master Writer users. It is pretty incredible. He's got this huge community of people out there using Master Writer to create songs, and where are they pitching them? Robin is amazing. Yes, she is. Um, Robbie Hancock. Robin's really got it right. Can't wait to get her second book. Um, Taxi is tax deductible too. It is. If you're making money, I think the rule of thumb, and I am not an accountant nor am I an expert on taxes, but from what I've heard, you have to, let's say you earn $100 with your music, you can't write off $1,000 worth of stuff. I'm guessing, and this again is not professional advice, but I think the rule of thumb is you have to make, so let's say you make $5,000 with your music or $2,000. You could write off a few hundred, reasonable expenses. You don't want to get yourself flagged. You don't want to get yourself audited, because the money you're going to spend on the accountant defending you in the audit is going to cost you more than you made. So be reasonable, be sensible, be legitimate. Um, Okay, now we're just talking about discounts. I'm going to get back to stuff that's in the song. Um, okay. I mean, stuff that's in the book. Where did I leave off? Okay. Um, I think there was something I wanted to get to before then. Maybe not. Okay. Musical signatures. Dun, da, da, dum. Musical signatures are melodies typically played by instruments in the track. A musical signature should be ear-catching and fairly easy to hum along with. Sometimes a signature melody can be taken from a part of the song's verse or chorus melody that's being sung. Sometimes it can be something less melodic and more rhythmic. Maybe a rhythmic phrase taken from somewhere else in the song. Professional songwriters realize the importance of musical signatures and signature licks in their songs. Most of the time, signatures and licks are written as the song is being composed, becoming an integral part of the song itself. Some of the songs are almost totally written around a signature lick being repeated over and over again in the verses or choruses. It's your job as a songwriter to create those musical signatures and or signature licks. The songwriter just strums chords or on a guitar and wants the band in the session to add a signature lick has not done his or her job. The song is not finished. Remember the Rod Stewart song? And while I'm telling the story, I want you guys to think of a current example of a song today that's got a signature lick. And then start posting it in the chat. But the Rod Stewart song, Do You Think I'm Sexy? There was a keyboard player, a B3 player, a synth player named, am I thinking, or was, I can't remember, Dwayne Hitchings was the guitar player? No, I believe he was the keyboard player. Anyway, he came up with the lick, dun 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 dun. Now imagine that song without that lick. As soon as you hear that lick, you associate it with that song. So that's a great example of a signature lick. Did I just actually see somebody say, Chip says don't put Tabasco in ice cream? Awesome. That sounds like something Chip would say. So, okay, do I have any signature lick songs? guys are still talking about taxes. Dear God. Robbie Hancock, still on Rod Stewart. If you want my body and you think I'm sexy, uh, baby, come on, or come on, baby, let me know, whatever. Day Tripper. There's a signature lick, but it's an old one. It's a great one. How about Satisfaction? Yep. Jive Talking? Yep. Sweet Home Alabama, My Girl, Singing in the Rain, uh, Macarena. In Excess, heaps of licks. Yep. Anyway, you guys are giving me a bunch of old examples, but good examples nonetheless. Um, yeah, those licks, those signature licks, become hooks. Okay, I lost my place again. Dear God, where did it go? Okay. Rhythmic signatures and or accents. Songs have parts, both lyrically and melodically, that need to stand out. One of the ways of doing that is through rhythmic signatures or accents. Maybe the hook or the title of the song needs to be accented or sung in a different rhythmic cadence to make it different, thus attracting more attention from listeners. As I mentioned above, sometimes a rhythmic hook, see, Chip and I agree, as I probably learned this from Chip. A rhythmic hook can be used in a song's introduction. Turn around and out section. Okay, I should read that as a whole sentence. As I mentioned above, sometimes a rhythmic hook can be used in a song's introduction, turn around, and out section, possibly along with a musical signature. Certainly, the Rod Stewart lick would be a great example of that. A great place to really change up a song and add some rhythmic signatures and accents is the bridge. Hello. The bridge or C section of a song has to be somewhat of a horse of a different color. It's not a bridge just writing a new lyric around a verse melody. The bridge is the climax of a song. It should be where the song reaches its highest emotional level, both lyrically and musically. It has to stand out. So there you go. Bridge is a great place to use a change up using rhythmic signatures. Yeah, you know what? How many of us have heard a song that has the exact same, I'm not talking tempo now, but the exact same rhythmic signature from the intro through the first verse, through the chorus, through the bridge, all the way out through the song? It's the same thing, just plodding along, plodding along, plodding along. And not only does it not hold your interest, but it doesn't add any salt and pepper, anything spicy to reinvigorate your interest in the song. So Chip's point is very well taken. Um, Santana is one big lick. Okay. And now we're on to Ear Candy, and that's not to be confused with John Candy. He was a rather large comedian and actor, former cast member of Saturday Night Live, right? And no longer with us. Sad, but John Candy is not Ear Candy. Ear candy is important when it comes to keeping listeners engaged because ear candy sometimes involves different sounds. It can be hard to map out on a guitar vocal or piano vocal work demo. Some ear candy, though, can be and should be written into the song just as musical and rhythmic signatures and hooks are. A good example of ear candy is a background vocal doing an answer line to lead vocal. If you've co-written a song and have places where a background vocal is answering the lead vocal, have your co-writer sing that part when you're recording the work demo. If you have GarageBand or some other multi-track program, obviously you can do that yourself. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that ear candy should not distract from the lead vocal. It shouldn't step on the next phrase, making it hard for listeners to discern what the melody and lyric from the lead singer are doing. Ear candy can also be an instrument shadowing or repeating a melodic line the singer has. Since it's an instrument and not competing with the lead vocal lyrically, that might be a better way to go than having a background vocal do it. Again, if you have a co-writer with him, have him or her play the answer or shadowing part on your work demo while you're recording it. Um, be careful with what Chip just described. I'm rattling around in my head. I'm trying to think of a good example, but I can't. But um, having vocal parts that echo another part, having instrumental parts that are like an echo or repeat of a lyric part, um, those can easily become very dated sounding. So if you're going to do it, you've got to do it with panache. You've got to do it so it sounds modern and contemporary. That's my only thought, is be careful. Um, Scanning to see if there's anything interesting there. Song Happy by Pharrell. I think I'm obsessed with this song. I agree, Bob. Um, Great song. Tons of ear candy in there. Um, okay, how many? Ooh, my God, I can't believe I've been doing this for an hour already. Um, Couple more. Oh, Chip is talking. This is a really interesting section, and it actually hits home because we do so much critiquing here at Taxi. Um, Deciphering the critique. Let's say the person who critiqued your song says the storyline in the verses isn't easy to follow. That probably means you've left out information getting from point A to point B. It is critical, particularly in the country music genre, that the progression from one event to the next be simple and clear. Don't let the first line of the song have the characters on the front porch and the second line put them in the bedroom unless part of one of the lines describes the transition. Um, Sometimes when a writer is solo on a song, the transitions may be perfectly clear to him or her, but in reality they are not. So remember what I talked about before, is getting an objective opinion. So that's the value of a critique. Members get really ticked off at the Taxi screeners when they tell them stuff like that. But they can see the song objectively. They're hearing it for the first time. If it doesn't make sense to them, they're not telling you that to hurt your feelings or to bust your chops. They're telling you that because they want the song to be great, because they want you to be successful, and they're trying to give you a tool to help you get there. Um, I need to know the characters better. For a listener to connect with the song, he or she needs to know the characters in a song. A song about a husband and wife without any insight into their personalities and looks will probably not draw the listeners in. Maybe the husband was in the armed services and had just come home from a war in the Middle East. Seems like there always is one over there. Possibly the wife had beautiful long blonde hair, but she's cut it off. Little things, but the things that make listeners connect with the characters and the song. Yeah, why did she cut off her hair? What show was I just watching? Oh, Newsroom. Towards the end of last season, one of the main characters in the show had a traumatic experience in her life, and she cut all her hair off herself and colored it a different color. And that was a clue to one of the other characters in the show as to her current mental state. Um, the verses need to be more tangible. Need more tangible items in them, or more descriptive words. If somebody says that to you in your song, you may be saying riding down a country road. However, the listener would have a lot more to identify with if the characters are riding down a crooked creek road, following by in my old blue Chevy truck. There's that detail that draws listeners in, as Ralph Murphy loves to say. Those types of images create a mini movie for listeners that's crucial for holding their attention and keeps them listening. Look at your song and see if those types of images are there. Another thing you might hear from somebody critiquing your song is the melody needs to lift more in the chorus. The chorus of the song is the listener participation part, where they sing or hum along. For listeners to know when the chorus begins, something has to clue them in. Most of the time, it's in the melody. If the chorus sounds too much like the verses or the melodies in the same register, a listener will probably not know when the chorus has come around. And if they don't know when the chorus comes, they won't be listening long. Make the chorus melody higher than the melody in the verses. Another thing a professional critiquer might say is, I'm missing an emotional connection with the song of the characters or the characters. Let me say that in English. Yeah, I'm missing an emotional connection with the song or the characters. Songs are hits because they connect with listeners on an emotional level. We've all heard that a million times because it's true. Listen to your song. Does it make you feel something? Does it make you want to laugh, cry, or cause you to think about or emphasize with the characters in it? If not, it's back to the drawing board. Somebody, a professional screener or critiquer, might tell you that there's not enough conflict in your song. This is typically a comment related to up-tempo, positive songs. Conflict here does not mean battle or war. It's important to remember that no relationship is perfect. No matter how much somebody loves somebody else, there are always issues. An up-tempo, positive song that doesn't have some conflict in it will not be believable. There's that word again. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. An up-tempo, positive song that doesn't have some conflict in it will not be believable to listeners and certainly will not strike that emotional chord that is necessary to keep them listening. So there you go on that. All right. Square peg, round hole equals big mess. Basically, I've read that section twice, so I want to tell you that what Chip is saying in there is, if you see a taxi listing or an opportunity for one of your songs, maybe you can pitch directly to Tim McGraw. So many songwriters I know will try and rewrite something for a particular pitch to the point where they water it down. They try to be all things to all people. And Chip's point in that section of the book is, if you don't have the right thing, just don't pitch it. Don't keep rewriting it. I mean, although he's a big fan of rewriting, but don't rewrite it for that pitch until you, to the point where you water it down and make it worthless. Okay. Let's see. Looking for other dog-eared pages. Vocalist. You know what? I think I'm gonna. Now I'm gonna end on this one. This is meeting with a music pro. First impressions. Okay, you've jumped through all the hoops. You sacrificed to come to a music center, and finally gotten a sit down with a music professional to play your music. First of all, congratulations. You probably find yourself now asking, "What now?" It's perfectly natural to be a little nervous. Somebody's going to cast judgment on your music. Yeah, you ever have that experience where you're sitting in the room, maybe a one-to-one at the Taxi Road Rally? I know that when I was still working in the studio and I would play stuff for record company executives, bring them demos or masters, whatever, stuff always sounded slower and pitchier, even when it wasn't, because I was sitting in the room and I was worried that they'd be critical. Will they like my songs? Will they hold on to any of them to play for Kelly Clarkson or Jason Aldean? Will I get signed as a staff writer to a major publishing deal? Hold on, you're getting way ahead of yourself. First of all, I'd recommend that you refer back to another one of Chip's articles called Pitching Your Music Professionally. That article, I discuss how to prepare your CD, lyrics, and press kit if you're a writer/artist. Please review that article carefully and to the best of your ability. Follow those do's and don'ts. And here's the part that I highlighted. He's talking about what to wear to the meeting, okay? If you show up, likewise, if he's talking about don't show up looking like a slob, and he says conversely, if you show up in a tuxedo, people probably get the impression that you need or want attention, and those kinds of people are dismissed quickly. Most of the time, wearing a nice casual attire will make a great first impression. A nice, fairly new pair of jeans, an iron shirt that preferably you tuck in. Well, sorry, Chip, but I failed that test. I hardly ever tuck my shirt in anymore. If the music professional is in the country music genre, please do not dress overly country. I love this. With a cowboy hat, cowboy shirt, unless that's your normal everyday style. So yeah, what was that guy's name? Nudie, that made all the intensely sequined and braided country outfits that a lot of big stars used to wear, maybe still wear. Yeah, don't go to Nudie if he's still alive and get your outfit just for that meeting. For female songwriters, be casual but stylish. Um, He says, if you like to wear perfume or cologne, wear it sparingly. I can't tell you how many times somebody has left my office and I've been scrambling to open the windows, turn on a fan to clear a room of perfume or cologne. All right. Anyway, man, I don't know, I've probably hit, 15 things in this book. I cannot recommend it highly enough. Chip Hardy is a great guy. He really knows the industry inside and out. And Chip, if you're watching the show today, I am so sorry that this thing sat in my suitcase for, let's see, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, for 6 months sitting in my briefcase. Whoops. There's Chip. I always make fun of him because he's got a ponytail. When he's on a panel at the Road Rally, I introduce him as Willie Nelson. But he's not Willie Nelson. He's Chip Hardy, ladies and gentlemen. This is a great book. Got a couple questions. Throw them at me because I'm going to check out in a minute. No hippie smell. Really hate it when a woman's perfume walks into the room before she does. Squinch says, Michael, thanks for doing a Chip show. He's a great guy. He is a great guy, and he knows so friggin' much. Submission questions. If you get a track in just on time and update a few hours later, will the updated version be heard or only the one you've loaded before the clock struck 12? Honestly, I don't know the answer to that 100%, but I'm giving you an intelligent guess, which is assuming that the screeners, sometimes if it's a listing where we're getting in a ton of submissions, we may start listening in advance of the deadline date. If you have a new version, if it's one of those cases, the new version may not get heard if the screeners get to it before the deadline. I would say that if we start screening at the deadline and thereafter, and you uploaded a new version at 12:01, when the screeners click on the song, that's the version it's going to go to because you've replaced the old version with the new version. So I hope that answers your question. Rex says, Chip is listening to mixes right now. He's sorry he couldn't listen. Send him my best. I love that man. Waddy JP knows more than I do on that subject. They get locked down. I tried to update after the deadline. You need to replace the old version with the new. Yeah, that's what I was saying. That if you don't leave the old one up and put up a new one, if you take the old one down and put up the new one, then there is no old one to listen to. I don't understand this question. What about old masters that have been lost or destroyed by age? I need more info than that, Clyde. Hey Scott, how you doing? I missed tonight's menu in the beginning of the show. Jazz, jazz, jazz is a dirty word, sad but true. Not around here, actually. Our new head screener is a world-class jazz aficionado. And we try really hard to bring in as many jazz listings as we can. The jazz market, certainly on the record side, is not as big as it used to be. Fair amount of jazz listings for film and TV stuff. Most of the time in the context of they need light jazz, to be background source music in a restaurant or a bar or an upscale lounge type situation. Um, so it's not a dead issue. Um, Seems to me that if you're a songwriter, then your best shot getting a song signed is through country. A few years ago, I might have agreed with that. Certainly a decade ago, there was a massive number of people that moved from New York and LA to Nashville because they said, "Ooh, that's the only place you can get a song cut." That was largely started, I believe, by the fact that labels back in the 90s were signing all these grunge acts, and very few people were doing songs that didn't come from self contained artists. But things have gone back the other way now, and I believe that there are a lot of, I mean, you guys, I'm telling you, just sit down and read every single taxi listing that came out on May 1st. Look at the listings and go down the list. You will see probably half of them are for record label publisher stuff that's not related to film and TV. Um, there are a lot of artists out there on labels, sometimes massive, a lot of times massively big artists that are really truly out there looking for the next great song, something fresh. They've been using the same old writers, the same old pool of writers for a while. They are looking for something fresh, new, and exciting and groundbreaking. And their minions, if you will, their A&R people, their producers, what have you, their managers, they're all looking for material for them. And it's not just country. Um, Clyde, I can't bring the road rally back east. Uh, I went to the Philly one back in the day. We never did a road rally in Philadelphia, ever. I might have done a taxi seminar in Philadelphia, but never did a road rally. We would have to pack up a semi. Thing about the road rallies, we had last year just about 100 different speakers, mentors, teachers, etc., panelists, what have you. We would have to fly them all out to Chicago or Dallas or wherever. If we brought it to Philly, then everybody who lives in Chicago would say, "Why don't you bring it here?" If we bring it to New York, everybody in Dallas would say, "Why don't you bring it here?" For us to fly 100 people, let's break out the calculator. Um, Plane tickets. The majority of our people are from LA that come to. My cars have not changed places, have they? No, same cars. Um, Majority of the people come from LA. Let's say even $350 a ticket to get them to wherever. So it's $350 times 120 people because I'm throwing staff in there and other people. That's 42,000 just on airfare. Now, we would need, for those 120 people, we would need hotel rooms for 4 nights, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night, 5 nights. 100, so we'd need 600 room nights at a hotel. Whoops. 600 room nights times $140 a night with tax. There's another 84 grand. So it would cost us about $125,000 just to move the people to your town to do the road rally. Not to mention the large truck with all the other stuff. So there you go. We just can't. We got to do it here. Not to mention the fact we always have to run down to the hotel before the road rally. We have to go to meetings with sponsors before the road rally. There are a million little things we have to do. I used to go out and do seminars all over the country for free. I would show up in a city like Philly or Dallas or Chicago or St. Louis, wherever. But now I do taxi TV. So I come right to your living room. Pink, Katy Perry, Joss, I'd love to write for them. Super unrealistic? No. Actually, I think they have all run listings with Taxi in not on just one occasion. Um, Road Rally the movie. Who plays Michael? You know what? If you Google Road Rally, there is a really nice guy whose name I can't remember. But he was a veteran of the Iraq War, maybe, or in Afghanistan, and he came home, didn't have a job, so he decided to do a documentary called Road Rally, and I believe that it's on YouTube. He also talks to my good friend Tony Van Veen at Disc Makers and somebody else, but definitely worth a watch. So Google Road Rally or go to YouTube and search Taxi Road Rally. But I think the film is just called Road Rally. Do I still need vendors? Yeah, I am just now starting to reach out. We need sponsors for the Road Rally, but I really, truly want to get the companies that make virtual instruments there. We try to find sponsors. We just don't want their money. We want them to show up and have something that you want to buy and get it at a discount that weekend. Mary Band says, Taxi TV is better. We can see you around the world. Yeah, it sure beats sitting on an airplane. Catherine says, Michael, I had an idea about your TV shows. Visiting some members' studios and spend a day with them, record it and share it with us. I've done 2 shows from studios in the past, both with, not with members, but with pretty big time producers. And it's a little clunky. I'm not opposed to doing more of them, but it's tough for me to get out of the office. I rarely even go out to grab a hamburger. I mean, literally, I eat the same TV dinner. Literally, I eat like, I forget what brand it is, but I eat turkey, green beans, and mashed potatoes in a 380 calorie low-fat TV dinner almost every day of the week and spend a whopping 5 minutes on lunch. To get out, the last time we did one in the studio, it's like a 4-hour extravaganza to do it. And you never know what you're going to get. The tough part is you never know what you're going to get on the broadcast side, what their internet connection is going to be like. I would love to get the people. Can all of you guys go to TuneTrack and start selling, sending them emails telling them they need to be sponsors at the Road Rally, that they should check out the event and tell them to contact me. It's amazing how many times people I know that know virtual instrument companies and reach out to them and say, you should be at the Taxi Road Rally. They don't seem to give a damn. I don't know why. Not TuneTrack in particular. But I think I did reach out to TuneTrack last year. Easy Drummer, Superior Drummer, our members love their stuff. Okay. Anyway, questions have whittled down, and I've been yakking for 1 hour and 22 minutes. My throat is really dry. See you guys. Oh, Jim Carvalho says, I sent Stephen Slate an email. Thank you. I appreciate that. I will see you guys next week, and until then, go make some great music, go buy Chip's book, and I will see you soon on another exciting episode of Taxi TV. Bye, you guys.